So I go and I buy for the season in January. So literally like December ends, that's great. You're like celebrating for literally like a day that you just like got through this like super chaotic season. And the second week of January, I fly out and I go buy holiday for the next year.
Welcome to Building Bellingham. I'm your host, Leo Cohen. Season 2 is starting off a little different than Season 1. We're not in the studio and our conversations are live streamed onto the Building Bellingham Facebook page before they make their way here. We're a little rougher around the edges, but the core is the same. Honest conversations with local entrepreneurs, talking about challenges, failures, and the effort it takes to build a successful business. Join me as we dive into the story behind one of Bellingham's biggest brands. Thank you for joining me today. We've been talking about this for a long time, and I know Bre, we jumped on the Pivot series together, but I've been excited to have both of you on this because you guys are high octane humans. You guys are operating at a really high level, and I'm fascinated with you guys and how you do that and how you balance so much in your life and support each other. And so we'll jump into all that. But before we get going, tell us a little bit more about, for those that are watching, about Greenhouse and a little bit about your backgrounds before you got into that, taking over that business.
I think it was probably, it was a few years of like Eric pushing, just like Eric had been in real estate for, back then, like 15 years in Whatcom County. I was pretty high up on the food chain for Hagen. I was definitely still growing at Hagen, but just kind of felt like something was missing. He was constantly pushing me to just do my own thing, throwing me various businesses that were posted for sale, whatnot. And I was still just kind of lost as to what that meant and what I wanted it to mean. So I ended up getting mid 2017, got my real estate license. Wasn't sure if we wanted to do that together as a team. He was still pushing me to find something else. And it was a vendor meeting I had regularly at Hagen that all of a sudden, it was a mutual vendor between myself and the former owner, Greenhouse Chris Foss, came in and sat down and was like, "Oh, I'm so bummed. I just had my last meeting with Chris." And I was like, "What? What are you talking about? Why?" He's like, "Well, she's retiring and closing the doors." And I'm like, "Why would she do that?" And he's like, "Well, they're having a retirement sale. She never did find the right buyer. And, she's just determined to do that." And I'm like, "She's not going to do that." And like, he's like continuing to talk, the vendor, and I'm literally turning to my computer and typing Eric an email saying, "We're buying the greenhouse. I know exactly what I want to do. We're buying it right now. Like, quick, call them. Like, they're already putting the store, closing. So, fixtures are going to go. Like, you got it right now." And he responds back. He's like, cool. That sounds great. Listen, let's talk about this at lunch. And mind you, it was like 11 o'clock. Like, it was an 11 o'clock meeting. And I'm like, lunch? No. And again, the vendor's still like trying to communicate with me. And I'm just like over here doing my own thing. And so, of course, I pulled up the Greenhouse Facebook page, sent them a message, and it said, "I know you intend to close. You don't want to close. I'm going to buy it." And Eric, as always, he's like, "I couldn't wait for lunch. Don't ever tell me to wait." And somebody immediately responded, was like, "Thank you for your interest. However, we have determined that we are going to close." And I said, "I don't think that's the right thing to do. I don't think you actually want to do that. I'd like to put my real estate agent in touch with your real estate agent and get a conversation going." Not disclosing that Eric was my real estate agent, but again, got in touch, who was actually Heather Baker, reached out to Heather and said, "I'd like to buy Greenhouse." And she said no. And I think it was like 3 more times of them saying no. And then they realized that I was serious. I wanted to buy it. And it was like all on the same day. And this was a couple days before Thanksgiving.
So perfect timing, right? Just like any other entrepreneurial endeavor.
Yeah, totally.
It always comes to the perfect time, right?
Perfect time. And then it was like a couple days before Thanksgiving because we reviewed the financials on Thanksgiving.
Big packet of stuff.
Went to the store to walk through it on that Friday, the next day, Black Friday. Sat down with Chris and Foss on, it was either Sunday or Monday. I don't think it was a Sunday meeting. It was super and then the rest is history.
Let's go back to that moment of diving into the due diligence of a business that's been around since 1972. Is that right? And so, you get this huge stack of paperwork, of financials. What does that look like from a due diligence standpoint? I've never purchased a business myself. What does that look like to review somebody else's finances versus doing things the way that you're used to doing them?
was a lot. Especially for me, retail's not my forte. It's not my thing. I've been in real estate way too long, and that's what I know, right? So buying a business, especially retail business, I didn't know what I was getting into, of course, and just kind of, it's been a learning process, and I'm still learning a lot. So Bre, with her background, she has an accounting degree. She knows she's a numbers person. She knows how to look at P&L sheets and just everything and diagnose it. And that was not only that, but we had her dad, who is also he was a CFO of Hagen for many, many years, and he's brought Bre up to be the same type of person. So
he's very conservative, though. I'd say he hasn't taken any risks in his life, and he looked at the financials over Thanksgiving dinner and was like, I mean, this looks like you could do this. Like, it doesn't look like you're out of the, you're not crazy, was basically what I was just asking to do. Like, look at these numbers and tell me I'm not crazy. And I mean, definitely what I saw was this room for growth. And, the previous owner, Chris, I mean, she's an incredible human, but she herself admitted just like, due to just personal things that happened in her life, she kind of left the business for 5 years in terms of just like being able to continually grow it. So I definitely saw this huge opportunity. I knew it wouldn't be instant gratification. I knew it'd be a process, which it has been, but there's so much I've learned that I could educate people on now with, looking at papers and just the things to ask for and the things not to ask for. I mean, there's so many little things. You can't take anybody's word for it. I mean, when they say they just upgraded their computer software now, I mean, when you hear that word, it should have been probably in the last year, or it's already, out of date.
Right.
And little things like that, we heard things, and because of the short timeline, we kind of took them to their word. Not to say that they weren't the right word. It was just definitely, there's just little things like that I know now.
We were fairly new at it, and this was our first go at it of stepping out and getting involved in a pretty big operation, really, for us. Even though it's a small business, you're still taking on right off the gate. I think we got in with 19 employees.
Yeah.
Some had been there for almost 20 years.
So they've been there a long time.
There's a lot of things to get through there, and managing a large team to start off like that, where most of them know more than what you're doing.
So what was that like to step into a business and have the humility to understand that people that were already there knew more about the business, but you knew you had this vision. So you had this vision of what you wanted to do with it, but stepping into it saying, I am starting kind of fresh here. Tell me about that experience. How is that?
Yeah, it's interesting because it ended up being more fresh than what I intended it to be. I virtually purchased this empty shell of a store. By the time, there were just certain agreements that had to get signed and in place, and it was such a short time period, and it was also the holidays, so all the items are going out the door as quickly as they can. They're selling floor models for furniture, and so when I bought the store, the back kitchen area was this, I called it a bowling alley. It was empty. We had everything in the limited inventory we purchased was in this a small corner of the store that was, everybody knew it as the dinnerware section. And it was crazy. I felt really good on one sense because I was like, okay, this is a fresh start. But then in the other sense, I thought, okay, but I need to first get the community's permission, I felt like, to make this change and to show the community my vision. Like, to me, it wasn't just my employees and my team. I needed to show the community and get their permission to show them my vision that I had too. So I brought in a lot of the same things that were carried before, a lot of just the good popular items. I threw in a little bit of my sprinkle of personality on it, and then really dived more heavy into it, like after that first month, 6 months probably period of just asking the community and the employees, my team, for like the permission to trust me and to trust the vision I had, if that makes sense.
It does. So tell me about the sprinkle that you put on it. What's your style? What did you add to that inventory that was kind of an ease into, hey, this is what another part of this that I want to do?
Totally. It was like this limited demographic that we were speaking to. And I was looking at this big picture of this amazing opportunity. Like, how do you build the brand to go beyond Bellingham, beyond Whatcom County? Because I felt like the concept that I had allowed me to do that. But the current brand that I was given was speaking to just a smaller demographic. So what I brought in was just a variety of things. Styles, weren't limited to just kind of a set style that was before, but it was bringing in the styles that they loved and then adding in the style of just a little bit more contemporary, modern, maybe a little bit more bohemian, little younger taste, making sure the millennials felt welcome to come in. Making sure the price points were kind of varied with it too. Definitely adding in just small bits of just a Scandinavian minimalistic style and feel, which, before everything was, pretty just limited, I guess, in the terms of the style of the decor that we had.
And at this time, so you're diving into this, and Eric, you're running a real estate business. So that's what you're focused on, but now you're in this, it's kind of a support role. You're like, Bre, what do you need me to do right now?
I just kind of rolled with it. For the most part. I mean, like I said, retail, it wasn't my thing. Learned a lot in the first 6 months, and I've even learned more since. So yeah, I mean, it was total change of pace for us, for sure.
So I staged one of his listings and I said, look what I can do. And it's funny because if I look at those pictures now, I'd be so embarrassed. I'd be like, this is the worst staging job I've ever seen anybody do. Like, what am I even looking at? But I'm like, look at this. Like, look at how this business can help benefit your business. And I believe the community wants that. First listing, I mean, I can't tell you how many people asked how much the bed frame was. We sold the table and chair set that we showed there at least 3 or 4 times, including to the homeowner. Sold the living room set. And I'm like, okay, these businesses can work cohesively, together.
Creating that win-win situation between greenhouse, our real estate business, and then also the homeowner. I mean, it was just a win all the way around. Yeah. And then for buyers, the buyers of the house, they were thrilled. They wanted to purchase several items that we had in there just because they looked so nice. And it was great for them. We give everybody a little bit of discount when they're purchasing straight from the staging. So it's nice too.
And it makes it nice too, because you are the source too. It's not like a third party source. You're saying, well, actually, I know exactly how much inventory of this I have. I can make this happen. Here are the things I can do. So it was a moment of like recognizing that you've just leveled up in your concierge service for both businesses. So this is 2017. And I actually remember, I think we went out and grabbed lunch, and it was a while back. And you were telling me about that. I remember that specific listing that you were telling me about. And so 2017, you take this on. This is right around the holidays. I had never been in a greenhouse prior to you guys owning it. And so when I went in there, I think I was pretty blown away. I thought it was 1 floor, and it's actually, is it 3 floors?
It is. Technically right now the customers we just have inventory on 2, but it's 3 floors. I get my steps in without any issues every day.
Get those steps in. Yeah. So so going from, knowing your expenses at that time to expanding to, okay, now we've got this pretty sizable lease, I'm sure, to purchasing inventory, trying to figure out how much inventory to hold. Tell me about that moment of seeing your first month of expenses and going, oh my goodness, okay, here we go.
The shock for me, for sure.
It was.
Yeah.
And it's still, even for me being aware of it, shock is an understated word with what it was. I just
remind you of PTSD of looking at
it. It's actually good. It's healthy right now because it's hard to really make me remember anything like a mindset outside of the current time span that we're in. But no, it was a huge shock with the expenses. And I knew we'd be underwater pretty heavily. I had done a cash flow for 2 years and required to do a cash flow for that time frame for the banks. And so I knew from doing all that we were going to be like, we're not going to see a dime here for a long time. But it was just little things that you have that you don't even think of that can creep up. Employee overtime, like even though you may tell an employee like, hey, turning off more lights. Like it's crazy how stringent I became with expenses when I found myself just in that moment of injecting personal cash of ours that we had worked so hard for. And Eric looking at me like, is this ever going to like stop, requiring this? And just trying to generate that growth and maintain and manage the expenses. It's huge. I think they should do more. They do first-time home buyers courses all the time. They need first-time business buyers classes. And
yes.
I don't think people usually buy the size that we did, but they do. I mean, they do. They need first-time business buyers classes. And maybe that's what I'll do in a few years, is start launching that.
That's awesome. So for you guys, you looked at the expenses, you did the cash flow analysis for 2 years for the bank. So tell me about the purchasing process. So for someone that might be looking to, start a business, and we don't need to dive too much into that, but I want to hear more about your experience. It sounds like you put personal capital into it, maybe went to the bank as well to get additional capital. What is that process like? Tell me about your experience. How did you get capital to keep the business afloat until the profitable months?
Yeah, it was really a process. Eric introduced me. Eric had a relationship already with Shauna at Savvy Bank. Savvy was incredible by far. Sorry for the coffee machine. Ultimately it was huge what she was able to do in building that relationship with that local bank. I know I could call Shauna right now and she'd pick up the phone if she saw it was me. And I feel confident in that. Winter Test, we had kept really good personal financial records up until the point of asking to, purchase a business. So that was a really kind of a key that I found later. Just Eric's business is, that's a business of itself, and making sure that those records, we had maintained those records well for a few years. And so that, definitely was a huge key factor in showing that we already had a profitable business going into this one.
You're trying to show that you're a good purchaser, a good borrower, right?
Mm-hmm.
From that perspective, putting your own capital into it, making sure that everything was dialed in. And I'm sure that your background in accounting probably helped with that to make sure things were in order. But it sounds like when you go to the bank to do that, it's important that you have everything just lined out. They can trust that you're going to take this over and do a good job with it. So it's not just, do I have the cash up front? It's, am I a complete borrower? Am I the right person to operate this?
Totally. Showing them that complete portfolio and being ready.
There had been a dozen other people trying to buy a greenhouse throughout the last, year prior to us getting involved. And they just, for whatever reason, just weren't the right buyer. With Bre's background, they instantly saw that she knew what she was talking about, that, she was going to make all the right moves necessary to make it successful.
And Eric, for you, you've been running your own business for a long time now with your real estate.
Yeah.
And Bre, you've been operating at a high level within another business. What was that like for you specifically to go from operating at a high level in someone else's business to saying, oh, wait, we are the top. This is us. And what was that like stepping into entrepreneurship from working for a corporate company?
Honestly, it felt really good. The way I just held myself in Hagen, I always held myself as if I was at the top. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I think all my fellow Hagen, I had so much passion and dedication for that company. Not only was my dad, the CFO for so many years, I felt like I could run, like I had just been in, countless meetings. I'd been a part of them for so many years, and it was my family. And it felt like I did own a piece of the puzzle. If the store was failing, I put all my efforts into it to make sure, to change it, to make it profitable and whatnot. And been with them through, huge acquisition. Absolutely just out of this world. And then filing a bankruptcy, I'd been through all that. Been with them through selling to a third party, investor. I think I had experienced really every level of business that you could possibly experience. And I took it also personally. And that's really why I knew I was getting bored and ready for that next step, is because I was like, oh, what's left, to really help me grow as a person, because I felt like I had grown that way. So to me, it was great. It was almost like I did both roles for a few months. Yeah, it was a few months, did both roles. And to me, it was like, no big deal. Same old, same old.
Hey everyone, it's Leo. I'm the owner and team lead at the Cohen Group Northwest, a pretty awesome group of real estate agents powered by the Moliat Group Realtors. I started this podcast kind of selfishly as a way to learn about business from some pretty cool entrepreneurs located right here in Whatcom County. Join the community on the Building Bellingham Facebook page to be the first to know next month's guest. And thank you for listening.
I only have 24 hours in a day, and somehow you guys have figured out how to do 36 or 48 hours, or however much you cram in to each day. But tell me a little bit more about what your life was like at that point. How do you schedule? How do you block that out and then find time to just say, I need personal alone time, or we need time together, or time with the kids? How did you guys do that during the transition and then after that?
During the transition, it wasn't too bad.
Yeah.
I'd say so during this, we'll probably get into this later, I'm sure, but during this whole pandemic has been a lot more difficult to try and take any bit of time off. It has been absolutely insane.
And balance has never been, I guess balance is something I've always had to remind myself to do. But to me, like my husband and my kids come before anything and everything. If they call me and need me, or if I feel like they're not doing well, like they will, and my work knows that. And I support my team that way too. If they come to me and say, I have one employee who has, a second grader that she's like, oh my gosh, I just missed the Mother's Day tea. I'm like, you go right now, like go and fix that. And I know, I've always said you put your family first, and that's the way I lead my team. And that's the way I try to lead our business life. Obviously that has a couple of changes, recently, but until then, that was something that was very passionate to me, and they knew that I will still go and pick my kids up from school. I was blessed when we purchased Greenhouse. Taylor was in Wacom Middle School, which was literally a 5-minute walk and 2-minute drive. And we just found ways to make it work. We did. Yeah. And then maybe it was more like Eric picked up Jake more, I guess, from elementary school during that time, because elementary school for us was 2 minutes from home. Middle school was 2 minutes from Greenhouse. So we just made it work and had the priorities and
let everything fall in after that. I think that's a trap that a lot of entrepreneurs fall into. And I've definitely fallen into that trap before, where you're so excited about what you're building that you forget everything else should be built around that. Like you should be planning your vacation, planning your personal time, family time, and then having everything kind of falling around that. And if something falls off the wagon, it's part of it, right? It's one of the things I'm really fascinated with. You had mentioned a little bit more about looking at their Facebook page and knowing that this was a grassroots business that had been here for a long time. But tell me more about the online presence. And you guys have done an amazing job with the social media, with the website. The website is beautiful, super easy to use. Tell me a little bit more about your vision with that, and how did you grow that? How did that change when you guys stepped in? Because I didn't even know that was there until you guys were there.
Yeah, so I guess going back to that Thanksgiving Day when we're going through all the financials and things, that's where we really saw a big opportunity was, hey, look, they're really not doing too much online business. It's pretty old school. This is a big opportunity to take this to the next level and kind of dabble in the online sales. I mean, we started off kind of just rolling with a website that had already been developed and was generating a sale here and there, right? And there's really a lot of marketing that goes into that to generate online sales.
I think when we bought it, it was like one sale every 8 to 12 weeks.
Was it that?
Yeah, I'm not kidding.
Yeah. So
where is that now with online sales?
So since then we've developed our own website. It's all brand new systems, and it's all integrated. So from our in-store systems to our online systems, it all integrates all of our inventory. It's very streamlined, and now I think since everyone's kind of sitting at home shopping these days, we've brought that up a lot. It's been very helpful through the pandemic for sure to have a good system.
It kind of started with the process first, I guess, of like building. First, I had to build a brick and mortar and build our brand there. And I felt like identify our brand there before I could identify our brand to the rest of the world through an e-commerce site. And when I first jumped into it, I genuinely, when we bought the business, I thought we only needed to change the way the e-commerce worked. And I didn't even know, I'm not going to lie, I'm not good at IT, and I've had to teach myself a ton because I had no idea the complexity of what an e-commerce site could look like, and therefore also kind of the other side of how simplistic it could be too. So I jumped in, I told, Eric, when we were running the numbers initially to buy the store, we just need to kind of revamp this e-commerce, thinking it'd be easier really than what it was. And by the time I jumped into it like deeper, I realized that no, we need actually to upgrade our entire POS system, which is our front end system, and as well as the e-commerce, and did a ton of research on which company to go in with and make a commitment with. Landed on one that, like Eric said, syncs flawlessly between the e-commerce and the POS. It's virtually the same inventory is being held, so there's no confusion. It took about a year after that then to build it. Not gonna lie, I thought it'd be, again, you look at this thing, you jump into it, and you're like, it's gonna be like this really quick process. We're just gonna build this website. And nope, it was like, literally, I was like, yeah, cool. So like 3 months. And then I was like, okay, our new deadline's could be like 6 months. And I think we actually we launched the site, started it in July, launched it in first part of February, but really wasn't ready to launch it. Like we launched it, but it was like, we weren't getting any sales on the old site. So it wasn't kind of no harm, no foul, but it took a full year to actually be able to reveal what you see today. And actually we are probably conservatively 3 weeks away from having an all new, even better looking and functioning site than what you see today.
I think a lot of people that are becoming entrepreneurs or doing entrepreneurial endeavors think that these things, especially when you start out, you feel like everything has to happen right now, and you're surprised when it doesn't happen within 2 to 4 weeks. And these things take so much time in planning and redoing the systems, and then trying them, and then them failing, or them failing a little bit and tweaking this, that, and the other. And so kudos to you guys for that. So this rebrand, online presence, tell me more about the lifestyle vision that you had, because part of what I imagine is your demographic would be someone that wants to come in with the quality of product that you have, to come in and like touch it and sit on it. How has that changed? I mean, you guys, I imagine that's a big part of how you acquire a customer, right?
Totally. Yeah. So my vision really when I bought that was believing that yes, we needed to build an e-commerce site and get that into the numbers. That was an opportunity, but really was believing in the brick and mortar. I believed in the brick and mortar, the need for the customer to want to touch, feel, and see things, and just create this like ambiance where they can, like, maybe they're having a bad day and they just want to go spend 30 minutes to an hour getting lost, just, moseying throughout the store, and bringing to them these moments, almost like these miniature moments as I walk through that like are so special to me, that I hope are special to them too, and trying to somehow bring those moments then to life through e-commerce has been incredibly challenging. I think we hit it with this new design that we just did, but I would even say I'm not happy. It's good with what we have now, but I think we can even build on that to truly try to speak to the customer with them not being even present in the store.
A lot of people, are just scrolling. They're not going to brick and mortars. The millennials are just, I say the millennials, I am one of them, so I can't say the millennials. But I think
when we got them,
yeah. The point is, though, that, I think that the next generation is definitely very much purchasing through, or getting really familiar with the brand through Instagram, Facebook, probably LinkedIn, other platforms. Tell me about how have you portrayed that to these different demographics that may or may not be on social media?
I think that it's been hard. I mean, for like the social media side, it's like, that's a hard question, because for me, the social media side has always been just being consistent with our brand and the image that we portray. And I think that has helped us grow. To those that aren't on social media, it's tough because you still have to just show them your brand through, I still do direct mailers, which probably to you, you're like, you still send something in the mail. You're probably thinking that's crazy, but to me, I have an audience still that needs that, so that's probably the toughest thing, is balancing trying to continuously engage with the previous audience, try to build the new audience, and then try to also maintain this audience out there that's like not able to visit the brick and mortar because I live in Florida or North Carolina, and building them through the brand, through the website.
How has that experience been for you guys to go from, like, say, day one, where it was, taking over the business that had been established there, to, getting a sale from, or someone purchasing a couch or pots and pans or a butter dish or whatever it may be from across the country? What is that moment like for you as an entrepreneur? Is it like, whoa, this is working?
Yeah, it's actually kind of fun to see that, for sure. To see, wow, how are people, finding us? And, we've just recently been putting a lot more attention to the Google advertising, Google shopping, and really pumping that out with, all the behind the scenes keywords and things you gotta do with that. So we've got a really good marketing crew that we hire full-time just to roll on all the Google, and then we have a full-time employee. All she does is sit there and enter items into our website all day and make sure that that's running smoothly, and it's very important. I mean, we've invested a lot.
There's that moment though when you wake up on a Sunday morning and you see that you just made a couple sales without even being open or paying an employee for that exact moment, like to make the physical sale. There is that like, ooh, we might have something here. This could at least supplement, XYZ.
Those are little moments that build up to bigger moments. What are, for you as entrepreneurs, what are those? Do you take note of all of the little blips that end up and then take a step back when you have got a lot of momentum in one arena? So you've tried something out, whether it's the Google ads or it's the mailers or whatever it may be as an entrepreneur, and you go, blank, that didn't work. Let's do it again. Blank. Okay. Yeah. Oh, that works.
There are moments that I'll never forget that have defined me and who I am today. and absolutely moments in the business that have been the exact same, just like you said. I remember the first time we launched the new site and it goes live, and like with that first sale that happened that night after, encouraging people on social media to, purchase from it. And this was before you could even link products on Instagram. Man, I remember the first time somebody bought a product I'd linked on Instagram, I was like, oh, hey, we need to make sure more items are visible on this, sales channel here. It worked. And there's been so many more, as challenging as this last year has been, it has been so much more rewarding. I just remember so many much more comments from customers, little moments that you wouldn't necessarily maybe remember had it just been a traditional, standard way of getting there.
No, I hear you on that. For retail, I'm assuming that there are certain times of the year the seasonality is really important. You have consistent sales throughout the year. You know what to expect as a baseline, but then probably coming up on the holidays or other parts of the year, how do you guys, you've been through 3 holiday seasons. Well, you started on 1 holiday season, and so now you're at your 3rd holiday season. Tell me about that experience. How do you ramp up? How do you get prepared? And we can obviously dive into what it's like prepared during a pandemic, which I'm sure is very different anyways. But how have you prepared for seasonality within the retail business?
So I had been doing that already for years, so it wasn't anything new to me. Like November and December's projected sales, for me, I knew it'd be about double my normal month, double one month and about 2.5 to 3 times on another. So I go and I buy for the season in January. So literally like December ends, that's great. You're like celebrating for literally like a day that you just like got through this like super chaotic season. And the first, second week of January, I fly out and I go buy holiday for the next year. And it literally starts that far in advance of planning. And I start planning there. I select the items. I select what I think will be the seasonal trends. I do way too much analytics on what I think the economy will be like in a year and buy for what I feel like the demand will be. And sometimes it feels like I'm literally just like taking a dart and trying to throw it blindfold at, a board and hope it hits. And then I literally start there with prepping, going back. All the orders will arrive into our warehouse in a standard year at about July, August. So it gives my warehouse team time to price it, organize it, and then it goes out to the store to go up into a display.
So you're planning ahead immediately after you finish your previous, let's say, holiday season as a benchmark. Yay, we're going to pop champagne. The holidays were awesome. They were crazy. I don't want to do that again until this time next year. You're like, all right, it's time to spend some money on ordering inventory. That's wild. And the whole concept of inventory to me kind of gives me anxiety. Holding inventory, especially like probably pretty high dollar inventory. What is that like for you thinking, all right, you have to have a confidence, like an air of confidence to say, this is going to sell, this, especially stuff that's outside of what's like the most popular stuff that's selling. You're like, I'm going to try this new thing. You have to have a sense, you both have to have a really big sense of confidence to say, we're going to believe this is going to work. And if it doesn't, here's our contingency plan potentially, right?
You got to kind of bank a little bit off history, previous years, how'd it look, how your sales were, things like that. But then you have to plan for the unknown future of what are the trends going to be in 10, 12 months.
And I would say
things change so fast.
If you don't make a bad buy, you're not a good buyer, right? And buyer being the person who's going out and curating the inventory. So you have to take risks. You can't just give the customer. If I give the customer everything they said they liked this year, if I do that again next year, and then again the year after that, and again the year after that, I'm not challenging my consumer, right? I'm not bringing them this moment of innovation and this sense of like, and why they want to come back over and over, right? If they know they're going to see the same thing, I'm going to eventually, they're not going to come back, in return. And there's only so much demographic that you can do. Like we all evolve, right? And so I always try to make sure that our products are evolving with us. And the one thing I've said for years, well before I bought greenhouses, my job is to expect what the customer wants before they know they want it. Really just putting that item in front of them that they never even thought of. And then they see it and they're like, I have to have this, whether it's a $5,000 couch or a $5 cute little trinket. Like that's my goal, is to bring them this moment and that realization. And Eric is always incredibly
it's overwhelming for me, to say the least.
He has stopped coming with me into the actual buy. It was funny. The first time we went to buy Christmas, especially, because And I'd be like, okay, I'll take 36 of that. I want 48 of that. And he'd be like, no. He'd be like, wait, no, stop. How do you know we can sell 36 of these? I'm like, I know we can. Keep going. Like, there's no time. We got to keep going.
Are you still the only purchaser, or do you have a team that helps you with some of the purchasing? As you guys have scaled, have you scaled that purchasing team?
No, it's Bre. Solely Bre so far. She handpicks every item in there.
That is pretty amazing. And I think I would lean in the direction of being pretty overwhelmed by that too. That gives me anxiety. The thought of having to think that far ahead as far as what other people will like when I can't even figure out what kind of boots I want to buy or tennis shoes or like whatever it is. So,
but why I do that is I get so excited. Like, Leo, have you been in the store yet for Christmas?
I haven't been in the season yet, no.
Okay, so you have to come in and see what I bought. To me, I get super excited to show everybody. Like, that is why I do what I do. Like, I love bringing happiness to others and having them see, like, just wander through, and like, I genuinely enjoy it.
This is the cheesiest real estate phrase of all time. Location, 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 right? But it's so true. It's really dumb, but it's really true. And you guys have this amazing location. It's like right downtown core Bellingham. How has that played into the success of the retail side, brick and mortar side? And what would that be like? Would it be different for you if you're, say, like up in Cordata or over in Berkeley? How would that change, do you think, for the retail side of the business?
Greenhouse has been such a core of the community downtown, and it's been this place where people have just gone for years and years. So having that community support just right off the gate when we purchased the place that was actually going to be closing their doors, we received this overwhelming response from the community right off the bat, and having that location, I think, is it's definitely helped us drive that core audience that have always shopped there back to check our stuff out, and we've kept a lot of that customer base that has been there forever. So it's really been helpful, I think.
And I think the location really speaks to the brand of the store that we're trying to tell, and the story that we're trying to tell behind the brand. And there's not that like local niche larger business there, right? Like in Cordata, and there might be, and I apologize if I'm speaking in there as one. I mean, there's a couple of restaurants, I know that, but like from a retail perspective, even Berkeley, Berkeley has probably an open need there, but there again isn't that, like, for my scale, the size of Greenhouse, I guess, that opportunity to go in there with that size of a place. And to me, downtown's the perfect place because it just has that little bit of a unique vibe. You're going there maybe not knowing exactly what you're going there for, to look. You're maybe just going there for a day or, just to browse or what have you. And I think that that's exactly what we're, the just community branding that we're trying to build.
One of the things that we had talked about a while back that you guys had brought up was you were talking with these two pretty awesome real estate agents down in Snohomish County about this concept of an HGTV show. How did that come about? How did that opportunity come about? How did it grow? How did it evolve? Tell me more. And you're on season 2 now, right?
Yeah, we are. We just finished up episode 7. And it's going to be 13 episodes for season 2, hour long. So it was a crazy opportunity. It feels like forever, but Leslie just reminded me the other day, she's only known me for 15 months. But it truly feels like 15 years in both good and bad ways. I think they'd say the same thing. They found the store similarly to how, like, if I was in Berkeley or Cordata, they probably wouldn't have found me. But they were on a girls' trip hanging out in just Fairhaven and downtown Bellingham and wandered into Greenhouse, fell in love with the store, and they had just finished their pilot and had just been approached by HG for the possibility of a contract for season 1. They called me up and they said, hey, it was like one of those moments for me, like, who gets a phone call saying, like, will you come stage all these homes on HGTV for a season? It was like one of those surreal moments in life that I probably, in the moment, totally underplayed and probably should have paused and taken it more seriously or whatnot. But there again, I remember it was actually Jacob's birthday, our boy. And so I spent about an hour talking to him, said, okay, I got to go. We were taking Jake to the zoo in the Mariners game that day and kind of put that on the back burner and had listened to them talk. But ultimately, we connected right away. Season 1 kicked off about 6 weeks after we met. We provided everything you see in those episodes was curated by Greenhouse along with Lindsay and her sister Leslie.
there's all of these different kind of offshoots of how you get visibility, right? This is probably a big catalyst for you guys to find customers and acquire customers from outside of this kind of Whatcom County area. How important is audience and visibility on, like, I think a lot of times people don't invest in those because they don't see the return on investment immediately. But how did you look at that and see it as an opportunity to grow the audience, and how important is that?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, and I definitely went into it knowing that myself, like them, we're going to invest in season one. It's a lot of trust, just building growth with the, other party, hoping that for some miracle you might, get back for season two. So for season one, I looked at it, I said, you know what, we can at least break even. We can at least gain exposure enough that we'll break even off our investments. It's a lot of work. I mean, what you see is like on the show, you're not like seeing anything sugar-coated. Like it's a lot of work, and we put our heart and soul into it. And to deliver what you see, just like I thought, we made our money back. We broke even. We didn't make money, but we made every dime that we'd invested into it at the end of season one. And that was exactly what we hoped for. To me, it was something that I saw that I believe really kept us running through some of these really difficult months of March, April, May, where we were kind of searching for how to put that next foothold into place. So when season two came up, season one was just 10 episodes, 30 minutes long. Season 2 is now 13 episodes, hour long. So huge opportunity, but then just kind of the investment also goes with it at first. And again, I believe that if we can somehow miraculously make it to season 3, it's a long-term wealth building, not that short-term, make money quick.
Tell me a little bit more about the show. It's called Unsellable Houses. It's on HGTV.
Yep.
Explain the concept for people that are not familiar with it.
It's not what you see on HGTV right now. So Unsellable Houses, what we do is we take a house that has been listed on the market and hasn't sold. And believe it or not, that exists. You find this home that has been listed and it isn't selling. They then invest their own money into it to make changes, whether it's like, hey, your kitchen is like tucked away in this corner and is way too small, or if it's a 2-bedroom, making it a 3-bedroom, what have you. They invest their own money into the home to do the renovations. I then come in, stage it, throw it up on the market, it sells, and then they split the profits remainder with the seller after recouping their initial investment. And the cool part about all this is most home shows that you watch on HG are all focused on the buyer, right? They're all centered on the buyer and the buyer's purchasing. And this is the only home that I've, at that time, at least when they brought this concept to me, where it was focused on the seller and the concept of the selling process, which was really cool to me. So that immediately interested me. And then the other part that I love is that we literally put a different personality and style spin on every home we do. So unlike other TV shows where like just Fixer Upper even does it. I mean, Fixer Upper is an incredible show, but they have kind of that same style over and over again that you see. And what we really try to do is bring a different style into every home. So, in season 1, we had a, boho chic in a condo that we felt like would be a first-time millennial home buyer. The modern farmhouse for that rambler, in a good school district. We put a different home style, different focus on the entire decor of the home. It's been proven so far, every home has sold, incredibly fast and for well above the original unsellable price.
Well, that's an amazing program because it's one of the things that we're seeing and a lot of people are experiencing is that, yes, obviously, homes that are within a certain criteria just disappear within the first 4 to 5 days. But what you're doing is you're stimulating a rung out, like the homes that have positive attributes to them, but for whatever reason just aren't getting the attention or audience that they need. And you're actually making them more appealing and creating more inventory, in my opinion, which I think is an incredible economic stimulation that we need, right? And making homes
totally. And they don't talk about it on the show. And it's probably because it was only 30 minutes. I hope they do it more. What we're able to do for these homeowners, a lot of times it's somebody's first time attempting to buy a home. And from being a real estate agent that first home that you buy, man, that was hard to get into for most people, right? Like that's a huge deal. And then when they go to sell it and they have struggle selling it, that feeling, being able to help them sell their home and make more money off of it than what they would have originally done, it's a gift. It's just, to me, it's so incredible what we're able to do for just individual families and couples that need it. A lot of times it's somebody who had to relocate out of state for, some reason. And I love helping people. And so that was the other thing that just told me, like, we can serve others and do design and make pretty rooms. Like I was all in, I was sold right away.
In the tough months, and I know we can kind of dive into the tough months because there's been a lot of them recently, but tell me a little bit more about having passion for what you do as an entrepreneur. How important is that to push through the tough times versus just feeling like you're going through the motions. How is that? How important is that to you guys?
When the market was insanely hot back in, 06, 05, 06, 07, and then we ended up going through the largest recession ever. And there's another learning lesson, right? New challenges that change outcomes and, just the way you deal with things. And yeah, every day is different.
How do you do it as far as being life partners and also business partners? Does it just seep into both worlds, or is it pretty well kept up? How do you guys do it?
I mean, we're both, believe it or not, we're on the same page most of the time. But of course we'll have those powwows where we're butting heads a little bit, and we've got to just slow down and relax and remember that, hey, we are on the same team. We don't need to argue about this stuff. It can definitely be challenging at some points, but for the most part, we're typically on the same page, and we work very well together. We balance each other extremely well. What I'm strong at, maybe Bre's not as much, and what she's strong at, I'm definitely not very good at. So
communication is probably the biggest thing that I can say, and some of it has been learned. I'll tell you what, it has been through failure that we've learned to do what we do today. But communication by far is the biggest thing, and just communicating with each other when maybe he'll look at me and say, hey, I need you to be not working in bed right now, which is every day, right? And I'll be like, okay, or I'll communicate to him and I'll be like, hey, I need to be your wife, for a night and not like your business partner. And of course, kind of like your kids, you just end up still talking about the business and the kids, but it's just communicating and using that balance, and the other one know when you're not having a good day or when you're not feeling the best about a decision that, we've made. And
then also respecting that too. It's tough
totally.
Sometimes to be like, when one person's in that mode and the other person's not in that mode, to say, well, I'm in this mode. Hey, you're not going to join me in this world? And you're like, nope, not happening. Not today.
Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah.
It can definitely be that way sometimes.
Yeah, I have a big curiosity, and I know that we said no 4-letter words, and this is not a 4-letter word, but the word Amazon. It's close to, I think, to to a lot of local small businesses. Your products are not sold on Amazon; they're sold on your e-commerce store. Is that just a different demographic of people or different products? Or are you just saying, look, people are going to go to Amazon for this, but they're going to come to us for this? I mean, what is that like for you guys?
That's a great question. It's really kind of defined how we almost our product selection, because about a year ago, we started kind of just refining that. And then through this whole process, we've done the same. I mean, some of our, what even we would consider high-end brands, like I'll give out Le Creuset, right? The super, lifetime warranty, gorgeous cookware and bakeware line is also sold on Amazon. And it's like, okay, if you know that brand and you know what it is, you don't necessarily have to come in and touch and feel it to buy a new piece, right? Like, and that's my kind of how I speak and how I do, our brand on e-commerce even too. And so it's tough, but I found that I can always be different. I can always bring these more curated, smaller niche groups. And so it's almost like my goal is always trying to take those bigger companies and say, okay, maybe I don't need that anymore. And yeah, there may be, a small percentage of my customer base that'll be disappointed if we don't continue with this big scale brand, but I know they can also go get that big scale brand for the same price on Amazon or Bed Bath & Beyond or what have you. And I need to look for that brand that is smaller, has more of a niche, that isn't willing to sell, those big guys, that needs my support. So that's what I just kind of currently, ask myself to do. Amazon it's not a long-term solution for anybody who's a small retailer. We could all probably find a way to get on it, but it's one of those things where then you're selling, percentage of your, minimal profits that you have to start with. And to me, it's just believing again in that brand and the story that I'm trying to tell, and just supporting those that want to be a part of it.
I appreciate you being diplomatic, because Jeff Bezos watches this a lot, so that's...
Yeah. Jeff, I appreciate everything you do and what you've created. It's just not what I'm trying to create.
There we go. Yeah, thanks for listening, Jeff. No, but one of the cool parts about Bellingham, especially as we've gone through this pandemic, that we've really seen people's true colors throughout this. I mean, we knew that Bellingham was a shop local, really lean in during tough times culture here. It's one of the things I love most about it. That's why I asked that question, I'm so fascinated, because Bellingham I've seen turn inwards instead of turn outwards. I mean, granted, there are things you need to go outwards for, but I would say the majority of what people are doing right now is turning inwards and supporting local, buying local. And it's been amazing to watch. How have you guys perceived the Bellingham community during this time, especially, let's say, gosh, has it already almost been, when did COVID start? Almost a year ago?
March 16th. Shop Small Saturday. I was in tears, feeling so blessed. Like there's no words that I can say in terms of a thank you seemed too small. The community stepped up, and they stepped up in a way I didn't even expect them to step up. And the support was huge. I debated doing a holiday party because A, the word party is not allowed right now, and B, it didn't feel right, but it was something that we had done as a company for over 40 years. They'd had this holiday party. But I knew with the space that I had that I could do something. And that was the other day that I really felt just the love from the community and just the support from everybody. So I had sent out invitations. I sent them out to only Bellingham residents with the Bellingham mailing address, just because typically I would send them out to everybody from Anacortes, LaConner, Camino, all the way up. Everybody got an invite to this holiday party, and people who know our traditional party know that, you came and you had, free, appetizers and wine or cider and live music. And it was this great night to launch the holidays and to unveil this year's holiday collection. And this year I felt just that need to still give the community something that was normal, but I knew I needed to do it in a way that wasn't, maybe the traditional way to do it. So I sent out invites to just Bellingham residents. And of course, if somebody asked if they could come and they hadn't gotten an invitation, I absolutely allowed them to. Recommended shopping times based on their last name, hoping that I could then use that to socially distance, limiting the exposure. And again, I did Bellingham because I was like, it just felt okay. Like we all shop in the same grocery store, right? Like it felt like we were just kind of all controlling maybe the same little, I don't know, there's no control right now, but if we had any, that was it. And I mean, I had the best overwhelming just response. It was so safe. Everybody came, there was literally a 3-minute wait in line at most, which normally it was like a 45 to 50-minute wait, but we were able to execute. And I had people that literally told me they hadn't been going out of the house. They hadn't been out of the house since March, but they came to this because they wanted to see. Everybody said exactly what I want. They felt like COVID didn't exist, even though they were all wearing masks and, had to stay a snowflake apart from the person in front of them. I had just snowflakes, positioned throughout the store. It was the safe environment that brought joy, brought happiness. And that's the only thing I can really do right now. I mean, there's a lot that's not in our control, but I feel like I can continue to be the same brand and image that I've been all along. And that's just, bringing them joy and happiness and the ability to just come in and wander and experience the store.
One of the words that comes to mind when I think of you both is the word grit. Going forward with this big vision and this, we'll call it COVID a little blip, because it's going to be a little blip and it's going to be gone and things are going to go back to a new world, but a good world, I think. What does the word grit mean to you guys? I mean, for what you've been through since you started to your future vision of what Greenhouse is going to become.
A little bit of, I speak mainly on this whole COVID thing, I guess. It's just being able to survive, man. Trying to adapt to the change that we had and adapt quickly to be able to survive was challenging. And that's grit to me. Getting into those difficult circumstances that you've maybe never faced before or been a part of, and then just having to revamp immediately and figure out how you're going to survive. That's grit. Yeah,
and the confidence in yourself, in your team to do so. I would say grit means that to me too. I have confidence in our work ethic and my team's work ethic, and I know we can conquer it.
We have good people who want to see us succeed, who we surround ourselves with, and our employees they're awesome. They love Greenhouse as much as we do, and it shows for sure.
If you have that confidence to be able to bet on yourself every time, you can get through almost anything, right?
Totally. And I know I have the confidence in us to be able to, continue to push things. I know that if push comes to shove, Eric will be on the other side helping me lift up a couch and deliver it to a customer's house. But having and knowing that I can count on all my other employees to be on the other end of that couch is it's this incredible feeling, just having that confidence in your team.
To you guys, thank you so much for sharing your story.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us.
Building Bellingham is a community podcast exploring leadership, challenges, failures, and business with entrepreneurs right here in Bellingham, Washington. You can watch interviews live and be the first to hear about upcoming guests on the Building Bellingham Facebook and Instagram pages. Again, I'm your host, Leo Cohen of the Cohen Group Northwest. This episode was produced and edited by Cooper Hansley and Tiffany Holden.
Our logo was designed by Sam Vogt. To learn more about the team behind the podcast, search Cohen Group NW on Google, Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn.